Welcome to Inside the Philippines. I'm your host, and tonight's story is one that's going to stick with you. This is Ciaran's story. He's 61 years old, Irish, spent 37 years working the coal mines in County Tipperary. Not an easy life, but an honest one. When his wife died suddenly 2 years ago, he found himself alone in a house that felt more like a tomb than a home. His kids had their own lives. His mates meant well but couldn't fill the void. And then he discovered something online that gave him hope: the Philippines. Sunshine, low cost of living, and the promise of a fresh start with someone who might appreciate what he had to offer. He met a young woman named Angelica, 28 years old, worked in a call center, seemed different from what he'd seen in all those cautionary YouTube videos. They talked for months before he ever boarded a plane. Video calls with her family, slow building trust, small acts of kindness that felt genuine. When he finally flew to Cebu at 61, she met him at the airport looking even more beautiful than on the screen, and within weeks he felt something he hadn't felt since his wife passed: purpose. But what seemed like a second chance at happiness turned into something else entirely. What he thought was love had a price tag he never saw coming. And the mathematics of a 33-year age gap aren't just about numbers. They're about power, vulnerability, and who really holds the cards. This one's raw. This one hurts. But if Ciaran's mistakes can save even one person from walking the same path, then maybe the €60,000 he lost bought something valuable after all. Here's his story, in his own words. My name's Ciaran, and I'm about to tell you how I became every cautionary tale you've ever heard about an old fool and a young Filipina. But before we get to the Philippines, before Angelica, before the house I built and the money I sent and the lies I believed, you need to understand what I was before all that. You need to understand my raid. 37 years I spent underground. 37 years in the coal mines of County Tipperary, in the darkness and the dust and the constant threat that today might be the day the pit decides to take you. You work down there long enough, you develop a sixth sense about danger. You learn to read the creaks and shifts, to trust your mates with your life, to measure every word, because loose talk in the mines can get someone killed. I was good at my job, careful, deliberate, not the sort to take stupid risks. My red was my light through all those black years. I'd come up from the pit with coal dust ground so deep into my skin I could never quite wash it all away, and she'd have dinner waiting. Never complained, never asked me to find different work, though Christ knows the mines were killing me slowly. She just kept the home fires burning, raised our two kids, Declan and Siobhan, and made that little house in Nena feel like the only place in the world that mattered. Then her heart gave out. Just like that. One minute she was sitting at the kitchen table laughing about something her sister said on the phone. The next minute she was gone. The doctors said it was quick. Didn't suffer. Like that's supposed to make it better. I found her there on the floor, still warm, her tea still steaming in the cup. The funeral was grand, as these things go. Both kids came home, Declan from Dublin, where he works in IT, Siobhan from London, where she's a nurse. The whole town turned out. We gave my raid a proper send-off, and everyone said the right things about how she was in a better place and time heals all wounds, and I'd be grand eventually. Then everyone went home. Declan and Siobhan back to their lives. The neighbors stopped dropping by with casseroles. The cards and flowers stopped coming. And I was alone in that house with nothing but the walls closing in and my raid's absence filling every room like smoke. I tried. I went to the pub with my old mining mates, Seamus and Padraig and the rest of the lads who'd survived the pits and made it to retirement. They meant well, telling me I needed to get back out there, that my red would want me to be happy, that there were plenty of women in Nena who'd appreciate a decent man with his own house and a pension. But they were lying, and they knew it. Irish women my age, 61, stooped from decades underground, looking 70 on a good day, They had no interest in a widower who smelled of Jameson and regret. The house became unbearable. Every room had my Reed in it. Her slippers still by the bed. Her teacup still in the cupboard. The way the kitchen floorboards creaked in exactly the spot where she used to stand doing the washing up. I started drinking more than I should. Started staying up late because the bed felt too big and too empty. Started watching rubbish on YouTube at 3 in the morning because it was better than lying there in the dark. That's how the algorithm got me. One minute I'm watching videos about vintage cars or fishing or anything to fill the silence. The next minute YouTube's suggesting videos about retiring in the Philippines. Why I left the UK for paradise. Living in the Philippines on $1,000 a month. How I found love and happiness in Cebu. That sort of thing. I started watching more. Couldn't help myself. Video after video of older Western men, blokes like me, weathered and used up walking around in the sunshine with young, beautiful Filipinas on their arms, living in beach houses, eating fresh seafood, looking genuinely happy in a way I hadn't felt since Mariad was alive. The comments were full of men saying they'd made the same move, best decision of their lives. The cost of living was nothing. The weather was paradise. And the women appreciated mature men, valued stability and kindness over youth and looks. I told myself it was just fantasy, YouTube nonsense. But late at night, alone in that empty house, I started doing the mathematics. I had my pension decent enough after 37 years. I had about €115,000 in savings. Money my Reed and I had put away thinking we'd travel in retirement, see a bit of the world before we got too old. Fat lot of good it did us now. The Philippines started to seem less like fantasy and more like possibility, not hope exactly. I wasn't daft enough to think some 20-year-old was going to fall madly in love with an old miner, but maybe companionship, maybe purpose, maybe a reason to wake up in the morning that wasn't just waiting to die in the same house where my Reed had. 3 months I spent watching those videos, reading expat forums, convincing myself this wasn't completely insane. Then one night, after half a bottle of Jameson, I did it. I joined Filipino Cupid. I had low expectations when I created that profile. What was I going to say? 61-year-old widower, 5'8" on a good day, stooped shoulders from 3 decades bent over in mine shafts, hands like leather from swinging picks and shovels, looking for companionship. Christ, I sounded pathetic even to myself. The first few weeks were exactly what you'd expect. I'd scroll through profiles of women young enough to be my daughters, hell, young enough to be my granddaughters, and feel like a dirty old man. Most of them had the same photos, posing by the beach, filtered selfies, inspirational Bible quotes in their bios. God-fearing Filipina looking for serious relationship only. No games, no drama. Looking for genuine man with good heart. I sent messages to a few, tried to be respectful, not creepy, asked about their interests, their work, where they were from. Most never replied. A few would chat for a day or two, awkward small talk about the weather, or what I did for work, then ghost me when they realized I wasn't about to send money within the first 5 minutes. One lass asked for phone load credits before we'd even had a proper conversation. Blocked her straight away. I was about ready to delete the whole bloody account when Angelica messaged me first. Her profile photo showed a young woman with long dark hair, simple makeup, nice smile. Not the heavily filtered, heavily made-up look I'd seen on so many profiles. She looked natural, real. Her profile said she was 28, from Leyte, worked at a call center in Cebu, looking for genuine connection, not games. I'd seen that phrase 100 times by then, but something about her seemed different. Her first message was simple. Hello, Kiaran. I saw your profile and you seem like a kind person. I hope we can be friends and get to know each other. Proper English. No text speak, no immediate requests. Just friendly. We started chatting. Just text messages at first, nothing heavy. She'd tell me about her day at the call center handling customer complaints for some American company, dealing with rude customers who yelled at her over the phone. I'd tell her about my mining days, about Ireland, about the weather in Nenna, which seemed to fascinate her. She'd never been anywhere cold, couldn't imagine what snow felt like. She asked thoughtful questions, wanted to know what it was like working underground. Wasn't it frightening being that deep in the earth? How did I cope with the darkness? Most people don't ask about mining. They just assume it's dirty, dangerous work and leave it at that. But Angelica seemed genuinely curious. After 2 weeks of daily messages, she suggested we try video calling. "I want to see your face when we talk," she wrote. "Messaging is nice, but I want to know the real you." I was nervous as hell for that first video call. Sat there in my kitchen at the laptop. Probably looked like a fool checking my hair in the screen reflection. When she answered, the connection was a bit choppy. Internet in the Philippines isn't always brilliant, but I could see her clearly enough. She was prettier in motion than in her photos. Natural beauty, you know. And behind her I could see her family home, concrete walls painted white. A small living room with religious icons on the walls. A picture of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. A crucifix. Her elderly mother shuffled past in the background, and Angelica called out to her in Tagalog, introduced me. "Mama, this is Ciaran from Ireland. He's the one I told you about." Her mother waved at the camera, smiled, said something in Tagalog I didn't understand. Angelica translated. "She says you have a kind face." That first call lasted an hour. We just talked. About everything and nothing. She told me about her family. She was the eldest of 4, which meant in Filipino culture she carried the responsibility for helping everyone. Her father was a fisherman, worked hard but didn't make much. Her mother had diabetes, struggled with the medication costs. Her younger brother was in second-year college studying engineering. 2 younger sisters still in secondary school. She'd been working at the call center since she was 22, sending money home every month to help with expenses. "That's just what you do as the eldest daughter," she explained. "It's expected. It's family. I understood that. Irish families aren't so different. You take care of your own." She called me Kuya during those first few calls. I looked it up. It means older brother in Tagalog, a term of respect. I liked that. It felt proper. Not sexual or romantic, just respectful. Like we were building something real and gradual. The video calls became regular. Every few days at first, then daily. I'd wake up early. Philippines is 7 hours ahead of Ireland, and we'd chat over my morning coffee and her evening after work. She'd show me her younger siblings doing homework at the kitchen table, her mother cooking dinner. Normal family life, you know? Nothing flashy or suspicious, just a working-class Filipino family getting by. A month in, she mentioned her mother's medication running out. Didn't ask me for money, mind you. Just mentioned it in passing, worried about how they'd afford it this month. The insulin alone was 8,000. I did the conversion, about €140. Not a fortune. Not even close. I sent it via Remitly before she could ask. Just did it. Felt like the decent thing to do. When she video called me after receiving it, she was crying. Proper tears streaming down her face. "Ciaran, you have such a beautiful heart," she kept saying. "God sent you to me. I know He did. Thank you. Thank you." Her mother came on camera, blessed me, told Angelica to tell me in English that I was a good man, that God would bless me for my kindness. Looking back now, I should have seen it, should have recognized the pattern starting. But in that moment, it just felt right. Felt like something my Red would have done. She was always helping people, always the first to drop off a casserole when someone was sick or slip a few quid to someone who needed it. The money made me feel useful again. Made me feel like I mattered. A month later, Angelica mentioned her brother's tuition payment coming up short. The university needed 15,000 or he'd miss the semester. Again, she didn't directly ask, just mentioned it as a problem she was trying to solve, stressed about how to come up with the money. I sent it immediately. About €260, nothing I couldn't afford. His gratitude was overwhelming. He sent me a video message, a young lad, maybe 19, standing in front of his university building, thanking me in careful English for believing in his education, promising to work hard and make us all proud. These weren't huge amounts, not by Western standards, but they were changing lives over there. That's what I told myself, and it felt good. Felt like I had purpose again. 4 months into our daily conversations, something shifted. Angelica stopped calling me Kuya and started saying my love. Not all at once, just gradually. A good morning, my love, here. A sweet dreams, my love, there. It felt natural. We'd been talking every single day for months by then. We knew each other's routines, each other's stories, each other's dreams. She told me she'd never met anyone like me, that Filipino men her age just wanted one thing, didn't respect women, drank too much, gambled, but I was different. Mature, stable, kind. She said the age difference didn't matter to her. In fact, she preferred it. Older men knew how to treat women properly. I wanted to believe her. Desperately wanted to believe that a beautiful 28-year-old woman could genuinely care about a broken-down 61-year-old coal miner. And maybe she did, in her way. Maybe that's what I'll never know for certain. 6 months after that first message, I booked a flight to Cebu. I'd been sending small amounts here and there, groceries, medicine, a new school uniform for her sister, another tuition payment. Maybe €3,000 total over those 6 months. Seemed reasonable. Seemed like what family did for each other. And that's what we were becoming, I thought. Family. The night before my flight, we video called for 2 hours. She was excited, nervous, kept asking what she should wear to the airport, whether I'd recognize her, whether I'd be disappointed when I saw her in person. I told her not to be daft. I told her I couldn't wait to finally hold her hand, to meet her family properly, to start building something real together. "I can't believe this is finally happening," she said, and her smile looked genuine. Felt genuine. "I've been praying for this, Ciaran. Praying that God would send me someone good, someone who would love me and my family." I should have paid more attention to that last bit, love me and my family. Should have understood what it really meant in Filipino culture, but I was too focused on the first part, someone who would love me. I told her I'd see her at the airport in 2 days. Told her to get some sleep, that everything was going to be grand. I didn't sleep that night. Just lay there in the bed I'd shared with Myreed for 30 years, wondering if I was making the biggest mistake of my life or the smartest decision I'd ever made. The answer turned out to be both. The flight to Cebu was brutal. 24 hours door-to-door, Dublin to Dubai to Manila to Cebu. My joints were screaming by the time we landed at Mactan Cebu International Airport. 61 years old and stooped from 3 decades underground doesn't make for comfortable economy seating. But the nerves were worse than the physical pain. What if she took one look at me in person and realized she'd made a terrible mistake? What if I looked even older and more used up than my photos suggested? What if the whole thing was a fantasy that couldn't survive reality? I shuffled through immigration, collected my bag, pushed through the arrival doors into the tropical heat and chaos of the Philippines. The humidity hit me like a physical wall. February in Ireland is cold and damp. February in Cebu is 30 degrees and thick with moisture. I was sweating through my shirt before I'd taken 10 steps. Then I saw her. Angelica was standing near the barrier with another young woman, both in Sunday dresses, both beautiful, both scanning the crowd. When her eyes found me, her face lit up. She waved, called my name, pushed through the crowd of taxi touts and families waiting for arriving passengers, and Christ, she was even prettier in person. The video calls hadn't done her justice. She had that natural Filipino beauty, long dark hair, warm brown eyes, a smile that looked genuinely happy to see me. No hesitation, no disappointment. She threw her arms around me like I was someone worth hugging. "Siran, you're finally here. I can't believe you're really here." Her cousin Jessica, the other young woman, smiled and took my bag. They treated me like visiting royalty, like I mattered, like I was someone special instead of a broken-down ex-miner who should have known better. The heat was oppressive. The noise was overwhelming: jeepneys honking, taxis jostling for position, families shouting greetings in Tagalog and Cebuano. But Angelica held my hand without shame, led me to a waiting taxi, chatted the whole way about how excited she was, how her family couldn't wait to meet me, how she'd prayed for my safe arrival. She'd booked me a modest hotel in Cebu City. Nothing fancy, a business hotel near IT Park, clean but basic. She insisted on staying with family to be respectful, but promised to spend every day with me. I liked that. Showed she had proper values. Not like some of the bar girls I'd read about online who'd move into your hotel room on the first night. The first week in Cebu was like something out of those YouTube videos I'd watched. Angelica showed me the city Magellan's Cross, the Basilica, the old Spanish fort. We ate at Jollibee, which she insisted I had to try, fast food chicken and spaghetti, but she was so excited showing me her culture that I pretended it was brilliant. We walked along the waterfront at sunset. She held my hand in public without shame. People stared. Of course they did. 61-year-old white man with a beautiful 28-year-old Filipina. The math didn't add up for anyone who looked at us, but Angelica didn't seem to care. If anything, she seemed proud to be with me, introduced me to friends we'd run into. "This is Siran from Ireland. He's my boyfriend," sighed it with confidence, with ownership. I felt like a man again, instead of a ghost. On my 6th day, Angelica said it was time to meet her family. They lived in Leyte, she explained. We'd need to take a ferry from Cebu to Ormoc, then a jeepney into the provinces. It would take most of the day, but her family was so excited to finally meet me in person. The ferry ride took 5 hours. We sat on the upper deck, watching the green islands of the Visayas slip past. Angelica pointed out landmarks, told me stories about typhoons and fishing villages. She seemed nervous. Kept asking if I was sure I wanted to do this, if I was ready to meet her family, if I understood they were simple people without much money. I told her I'd worked in coal mines my whole life. I understood simple people. I understood hard work. I told her not to worry. The jeepney from Ormoc took another hour, packed in with locals. Chickens in cages, rice sacks, the whole chaotic Filipino transport experience. We bounced along roads that got progressively rougher until we turned onto a dirt track that led to her barangay. The family home was more humble than it had appeared on video. Concrete walls and corrugated metal roof, chickens scratching in the yard. A neighbor's sari-sari store next door, dogs sleeping in the shade. Children playing in the street stopped to stare as the jeepney dropped us off. Word spread fast the Kano had arrived. But the welcome. Christ, the welcome. Her father came out first, a weathered fisherman with skin like leather and hands that had hauled nets his whole life. Hands like mine, just different work. He shook my hand with genuine warmth, said something in Cebuano I didn't understand, but his smile was real. Her mother cried when she saw me. Actual tears. She took both my hands, blessed me, called me anak, son, pulled me into the house where the rest of the family waited. The brother whose tuition I'd paid, the sisters I'd seen on video calls, aunts and uncles and neighbors who'd been invited to meet the foreigner, and the food. They'd prepared lechon, a whole roasted pig. I found out later it cost them 12,000, about €200, more than her father made in a month of fishing. an enormous expense for a family like this. But they'd done it to honor me, to show gratitude, to welcome me properly. Red Horse beer appeared. Karaoke started up. Children ran everywhere. Neighbors kept arriving to meet the Cano who was helping the family. Angelica's brother stood up, slightly drunk on beer, and gave a speech in English thanking me for believing in his education. Her mother showed me the diabetes medication, held up the box, pointed to my name on a paper receipt she'd kept. Proof that I'd helped. Evidence that I was good. The gratitude was overwhelming and specific. These people weren't scammers. They were desperately poor, and someone had thrown them a lifeline. Me. I'd thrown them a lifeline. I felt useful. I felt needed. I felt like I had purpose again. That night, I slept in a small room. They'd prepared a fan, but no air conditioning. Roosters starting up at 4 in the morning, sounds of family life all around me. But I slept better than I had in 2 years. Better than I had since my raid died. On my second week, Angelica and I walked along a quiet beach near her town. The sun was setting over the water, painting everything gold and orange. She was quiet for a long time, then asked me something that made my heart jump. "Ciaran, have you ever thought about remarrying?" I didn't know what to say. We'd been talking for months, but this felt sudden. "Real?" she continued before I could answer. "I know you still love Myreed. I would never try to replace her. I know she was special. But maybe God brought us together so neither of us has to be alone. Maybe he has a plan for both of us." She talked about building a simple life together. Half the year in the Philippines, half in Ireland if I wanted. Nothing complicated, just companionship, partnership, someone to take care of me as I got older, and someone I could help in return. Her family would be my family. My home would be her home. It made sense. It felt right. It felt like maybe Myred would have understood, would have wanted me to be happy, instead of drinking myself to death in that empty house in Nena. By week 3, we were talking about marriage seriously. Not immediately. She wanted to do things properly, with her family's blessing, with time to plan. But the intention was there. The commitment was forming. I felt something I hadn't felt since Myreed died. I felt purpose. I felt needed. I felt like maybe the second half of my life could mean something after all. Looking back now, I can see the machinery already in motion, the pattern already established. But in that moment, on that beach, with that beautiful woman talking about building a life together, I couldn't see anything but hope. I should have asked different questions. Should have wondered why a 28-year-old wanted a 61-year-old man. Should have understood what my family would be your family really meant in Filipino culture. But I was too busy feeling like a man again instead of a ghost. Too busy feeling useful. Too busy filling the hole Myred left behind. The mathematics of age gaps aren't just about numbers. They're about power, about need, about who's getting what out of the transaction. I just didn't know I was in a transaction yet. I flew back to Ireland after 3 weeks feeling like a different man. Still stooped, still weathered, still 61 years old, with bad knees and a miner's stoop, but I had purpose again. Had someone waiting for me. Had a reason to wake up in the morning that wasn't just counting down the days until I joined Myreed. The requests started within a week of my return. Nothing direct at first. Angelica would mention problems during our daily video calls, always apologetic, always stressed, always trying to handle things herself. Her father's fishing boat engine had died. Without it, he couldn't work. The family had no income except what she sent from her call center job. She was trying to save up the 45,000 to fix it, about €800, but it would take months. I sent it the next day via Remitly. Her father sent me a video message standing next to the repaired boat. Weathered fisherman's face breaking into a huge smile. Blessing me in Cebuano, making the sign of the cross. Angelica translated, he was calling me his son. his benefactor, the man God sent to save his family. 2 weeks later, Angelica's sister's baby was hospitalized with dengue fever. The private hospital, the only one with proper care, wanted $32,000 upfront, or they'd transfer the child to the overcrowded public hospital where, Angelica said through tears, babies died waiting for treatment. I could hear the baby crying in the background of the video call, could see the fear in her sister's eyes. I sent Key $35,000, covered the hospital bill and a bit extra for medicine. The baby recovered. More video messages of gratitude. More prayers. More proof that I was doing good. Saving lives. Being the man my redad would have wanted me to be. Then her brother needed specialized software for his engineering program, bought one $18,000. About €300. Without it, he couldn't complete his coursework. His entire semester, his entire future depended on it. And after all I'd already invested in his education, it seemed mad to let him fail now. I sent it. Each request came with receipts, with photos, with video evidence, her father showing me the boat engine, her sister's baby in the hospital bed with an IV drip, her brother demonstrating the engineering software on his laptop. This wasn't a scam. These were real problems affecting real people who had nothing. And I had everything. A pension, savings. An empty house in Ireland that I rattled around in like a ghost. The requests came monthly at first, then every few weeks, then weekly. Always presented as emergencies, Angelica was trying to handle alone. Never demands, never expectations. Just problems she'd mention, stress she was under, and my offer to help. I started keeping a notebook, writing down what I sent and when. The numbers added up faster than I expected. By month 3 after returning from Cebu, I'd sent about €12,000. By month 4, closer to 18,000. I told myself it was temporary. Once we were married and I moved to the Philippines permanently or brought her to Ireland, though she seemed reluctant to leave her family, I could monitor expenses better, could teach them to budget, could help them become self-sufficient instead of dependent. But I also understood Filipino family culture by then, had read the Expat forums, knew that utang na loob, debt of gratitude, was a real thing. That family obligations didn't end, that as the foreigner with money, I was expected to help. It was part of the deal, part of what it meant to join a Filipino family, and I wanted to join that family. Desperately wanted to belong to something again. My second visit came 5 months after the first. Angelica met me at the airport again, same beautiful smile, same warm embrace, same treatment like I was someone special. But this time felt different, more comfortable, more like coming home to someone instead of meeting a stranger. We spent a few days in Cebu, then headed back to Leyte to see her family. The welcome was just as warm, but there was a new ease to it. I wasn't the foreign curiosity anymore. I was family. They'd set up a small room in the house just for me, painted it, put in a proper bed with mosquito netting, hung a crucifix on the wall. On my third night there, her father and I sat outside drinking San Miguel beer, watching the sun set over the rice fields. He spoke limited English, but we managed. He thanked me again for everything I'd done, for his boat engine, for the medicine, for his son's education, for believing in his family. Then he said something that changed everything. "Kiaran, you are good man, good heart. My daughter is lucky. But I think about the future, about when you and Angelica marry, where you will live." I explained my thinking: half the year in Ireland, half here. Or maybe we'd find a small place in Cebu City where she could keep working, and I could retire comfortably. He nodded, took a long drink of beer, then made a proposal. What if we build small house here, on our land? Nothing fancy. 2-bedroom, concrete, maybe €850,000 total. He did the math for me, about €15,000. You live there when you visit. Family use it when you in Ireland. Eventually, when you both retire, it is your house. Our house. Family house. I'd worked construction before the mines. I understood building costs, knew that €15,000 for a two-bedroom concrete house in the provinces was reasonable, maybe even cheap. He walked me to the land the next day, a quarter-hectare plot about half a kilometer from the main family house. Beautiful spot overlooking rice fields, mountains in the distance, coconut trees providing shade. He explained it had been in the family for generations, his father's land, now his, eventually his children's. We drew up rough plans together. Simple house. Living area, 2 bedrooms, bathroom, small kitchen, concrete construction to withstand typhoons. Corrugated metal roof. Nothing fancy, but solid. Permanent. It made sense. I'd have a place in the Philippines. The family would benefit when I wasn't there, and eventually it would be mine and Angelica's retirement home. Our future. I wired €850,000 the week after I returned to Ireland. About €15,000 from my savings. Big expense, yes, but an investment in our future. In our home, construction started immediately. Angelica sent photos of the foundation being poured, the concrete walls going up, the roof frame being assembled. Her father supervised the work, video called me to show progress, asked my opinion on placement of windows and doors. I felt involved, connected, like I was building something real. Then the problem started. Month 6. The contractor hit bedrock while digging the foundation for the bathroom. Needed to bring in special equipment. 180,000 more, about €3,000. Her father was apologetic, embarrassed, said they'd try to manage it themselves, but construction would stop for months while they saved. I sent it. 2 weeks later. Lumber prices had jumped because of a typhoon in northern Luzon. The original quote was no longer valid. 120,000 more, about €2,000. Without it, they'd have to use cheaper wood that wouldn't last. I sent it. Month 7. They needed to bribe the barangay captain to approve the permits. In 50,000, about €900. Corruption, yes, but that's how things worked in the Philippines. Pay or the construction gets shut down. I sent it. Month 8. Typhoon. Odette, a real typhoon. I saw it on the news. Damaged materials that had been delivered to the site. 100,000 to replace everything, about €1,800. I sent it. Each overrun came with apologetic phone calls, with photos showing the problems, with Angelica crying about how embarrassed she was, how her father felt terrible asking for more money, how they'd pay me back somehow. I kept sending money. What else could I do? Stop construction halfway and lose everything I'd already invested. The house that was supposed to cost $850,000 had cost a prison $250,000 by month 8. About €22,000 instead of 15. Nearly double the original quote. And I still hadn't seen it in person. Every video call, Angelica had a reason why we couldn't tour the site. The contractor was there. The family was using it to store rice. The paint wasn't dry. Always something. Meanwhile, other requests kept coming. Angelica's sister's husband, the one with the baby I'd helped save from dengue, lost his tricycle in an accident. Their only source of income, gone. Could I loan them €120,000 for a replacement? About €2,000? They'd pay me back monthly from his tricycle earnings. I sent it, never saw a single repayment. The Gcash notifications became constant. 5,000 for groceries. At 8,000 for medicine. At 8,000 for a nephew's birthday party. To 15,000 for school supplies. To 50,000 for her father's boat maintenance. To 50,000 for her mother's diabetes medication, much more than the 8,000 it used to cost. But medicine prices had gone up, Angelica explained. Small amounts individually. Nothing that seemed unreasonable for family support. But they added up faster than I could track. By month 8 after my first visit, I'd sent approximately €45,000 to the Philippines. Nearly half my savings gone. My bank account showed €70,000 remaining from my original $115,000. I should have stopped. Should have asked harder questions. Should have demanded to see the house via video call, to speak to the contractor myself, to understand why completion dates kept shifting. But I was in too deep, had invested too much. And the sunk cost fallacy is a powerful thing. The more you've already lost, the harder it is to walk away. Plus, I had a home in the Philippines, a family who loved me, a woman who made me feel needed. The Gcash notifications felt like proof I mattered, like I had purpose, like I was the man my read would have been proud of, helping people, being generous, putting family first. I told myself it was temporary. Once the house was finished, expenses would drop. Once we were married and living together, I could manage the budget better. Once I was there permanently, I could see exactly where the money was going. I told myself a lot of things, all of them lies I needed to believe. Because the alternative, admitting I was being bled dry, that the woman I loved might be using me, that the family who called me Anak saw me as Tito Moneybags, that alternative was unbearable. So I kept sending money, kept answering the Gcash requests, kept believing that the house was almost finished, just one more payment, one more overrun, one more emergency, and then everything would be grand. The mathematics were simple. I'd sent €45,000 in 8 months. At this rate, I'd be broke in less than 2 years. But I couldn't see it. Wouldn't see it. Because seeing it meant admitting that everything I'd built in the Philippines, the relationship, the family, the purpose, the hope, might be nothing more than a transaction I didn't understand I was in. The first crack appeared on Facebook. I wasn't much for social media. My Red had handled all that, posting photos of the grandkids when Declan and Siobhan visited, keeping up with her sisters, sharing recipes with friends. But I'd created an account after meeting Angelica, needed a way to stay connected, to see her posts, to feel part of her life when I was 7 hours behind in cold, rainy Ireland. Her posts were usually harmless, selfies with co-workers at the call center, food photos, pancit, adobo, whatever she was eating for lunch, inspirational Bible quotes. God's plan is always perfect. Trust in His timing. That sort of thing. Religion is everywhere in the Philippines. It's genuine for most people, not just performance. Then one afternoon in month 9, sitting in my kitchen in Nena with a cup of tea gone cold, scrolling through Facebook because it was better than staring at the walls, I saw photos that made my stomach drop. Angelica at a beach resort. Not the provincial simplicity of Leyte, but a proper resort with infinity pools and beach loungers. She was tagged with friends from her call center, all young Filipinos, laughing, drinking cocktails with little umbrellas, posing for group photos in the sunset. And there was a man, JM, the tag said, young, Filipino, fit. Had that easy confidence I'd never possessed even in my youth. Lean and muscular where I was stooped and weathered. In one photo, his arm was casually draped around Angelica's shoulders. In another, they were standing close, her hand on his chest. The photos were from 2 weeks earlier. I scrolled through the comments, all in Tagalog, but even Google Translate couldn't hide the teasing tone. Bagay kayo. You suit each other. Kailan kasal? When's the wedding? So sweet together. I sat there staring at the screen, heart hammering. This was nothing, I told myself. Just co-workers. Filipino culture was different. Men and women could be friends without it, meaning anything romantic. I'd read about this on the Expat forums. Western jealousy destroying perfectly innocent friendships. But something didn't add up. 2 weeks ago, the same weekend, Angelica had asked me for $25,000 for her mother's medication, said she couldn't video call that Sunday because of overtime at the call center, emergency shift covering for someone who called in sick, overtime, or beach resort. I messaged her immediately. Tried to keep it casual, friendly. "Hey love, saw your photos from the resort. Looked like fun. You didn't mention going away." The message sat unread for 3 hours, then 4. The blue check marks appeared finally, showing she'd seen it. Her reply came another hour later. "Oh, that? Just team outing from work?" Everyone went. "JM is colleague, nothing serious. Why you asking?" Something in her tone had shifted, less warm, more defensive. I tried to let it go, told myself I was being paranoid, a jealous old man worried that his young girlfriend would realize she could do better. But I couldn't stop thinking about it, about her hand on his chest, about the way they stood together, about the comments asking when the wedding would be. Our next video call, I brought it up again. Gentle, I thought. Just asking for reassurance. About JM. "I'm not accusing you of anything, love. Just..." He seemed quite friendly in those photos. "And you didn't mention the resort when we talked that weekend." The tears started immediately. Real tears. Shaking shoulders. Hands covering her face. The whole performance. "Kyron, I can't believe you don't trust me. After everything. After I introduced you to my family. After my father trusted you with our land. After all the sacrifices I've made." She went on. And on. About how she'd turned down Filipino men her own age for me. About how her friends called her a gold digger for dating a foreigner. About how her family had questions about the age gap, but she'd defended me. Told them I was special. Told them age didn't matter because I had a good heart. And this was how I repaid her. With jealousy? With accusations? With distrust? Didn't I understand Filipino culture? Men and women could be friends here. Was I going to be that kind of foreigner? The jealous old Kano who couldn't handle his girlfriend having male friends? After everything her family had done for me, welcoming me, feeding me that expensive lechon, trusting me with their land for the house, treating me like family, I was accusing her of what? Cheating? Lying? She said if I couldn't trust her, maybe we should reconsider everything. Maybe this relationship was a mistake. Maybe the age gap was too much after all. The guilt crushed me like the pit collapsing. I apologized profusely. Told her she was right, I was being an insecure old fool. Irish jealousy getting the better of me. Of course she could have male friends. Of course the beach trip was innocent. I was sorry. So sorry. I sent flowers the next day through a Cebu delivery service, $4,500, about €80. Roses and lilies with a card that said, "Forgive me." I wired an extra 15,000 as a sorry gesture, about €270, just to show I trusted her. To prove I wasn't that kind of man. She forgave me. Eventually. But something had changed. The video calls became less frequent. Every other day instead of daily, then twice a week. The "I love yous" at the end of calls sounded more mechanical, like lines from a script she was tired of performing. When I suggested visiting for Christmas, wanted to see the house, wanted to spend the holiday with her and her family, she had excuses ready. The house construction was behind schedule. Better to wait until it was finished so I could see it complete. Wouldn't I be disappointed seeing it half done? Wouldn't that ruin the surprise? Plus, Christmas was expensive in the Philippines. Her family would feel obligated to prepare a big celebration if I visited, and they couldn't afford it right now. Better to wait until January or February when things were calmer. It made sense. Sort of. But I wanted to see the house. Wanted to see the progress on my investment. €45,000 sent, and I still hadn't seen more than photos of concrete and lumber. "I'll send more money to speed up construction," I offered. "How much would help?" "Another 200,000, she said, about €3,600. That would let them hire more workers, finish faster, have it ready for my next visit in February. I sent it. Looking back now, I can see how obvious it all was. The defensive reaction when I asked about JM, the weaponized guilt, the shift in her warmth and attention, the declining my Christmas visit, the constant reasons why I couldn't see the house via video call. But I couldn't see it then, didn't want to see it. Because seeing it meant admitting I'd been played, meant admitting that a beautiful 28-year-old woman probably didn't genuinely love a broken-down 61-year-old ex-miner, meant admitting that €45,000 of my retirement savings had been poured into something that might not be real. The sunk cost was too high. I'd invested too much emotionally, financially, psychologically to walk away now. So I chose to believe her. Chose to believe that JM was just a colleague. Chose to believe that Filipino friendship culture was different from Irish culture. Chose to believe that the house was almost finished and just needed one more payment. I crossed the line from rationalization into willful denial. I knew something was wrong. Knew it in my gut the way I used to know when a mine shaft was about to collapse. That sixth sense miners develop after years underground. But I ignored it. Pushed it down, drowned it in Jameson, and told myself I was being paranoid. Because the alternative being alone again in that empty house in Nina, admitting that hope was just another form of stupidity, accepting that I'd never fill the hole my raid left behind, that alternative was unbearable. So I kept sending money, kept video calling when she made time, kept planning for a future in the Philippines that was looking less certain by the day. Month 10 came and went. The house still wasn't finished. More delays, more costs, more excuses. And somewhere in Cebu, Angelica was living a life I knew nothing about, with a man named JM. But I didn't know that yet, not for certain. The truth was coming, though. It always does. The truth arrived at 2047 a.m. Irish time. I was in bed but not sleeping. Never slept well anymore. Spent most nights staring at the ceiling, listening to the house creak, wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake or if I was just being a paranoid old fool. My phone lit up on the nightstand. Facebook Messenger notification. Jessica. Angelica's cousin. The one who'd met me at the airport all those months ago with that beautiful smile. I almost didn't open it. It was nearly 3 in the morning. Nothing good ever comes at 3 in the morning. But I opened it. The message was long, rambling, full of typos and missing punctuation, clearly drunk. Tito. Ciaranim sorry, but you shall know the truth. Angelica has boyfriend JM. They live together in Cebu. The house in Leyte is finished. Already they renting it out. You're not the only one sending money. There are 2 other Kano. She is chatting him drunk, and I can't take it anymore. This is wrong. What she is doing to you. You are good man. I'm sorry, Tito. I read it 3 times. Heart hammering, hands shaking. The room spinning like I'd been drinking, but I hadn't touched a drop. JM was the boyfriend. They lived together. The house was finished and being rented. There were other foreigners sending money. Every detail hit like a hammer. I sat up in bed, walked to the kitchen, the same kitchen where my red had died. Sat at the same table, felt the pit collapse again. Part of me wanted to dismiss it. Jessica was drunk, probably jealous, maybe making things up. Drunk people say stupid things. Families have drama. This could be nothing, but another part of me, the part that had spent 37 years reading danger signs underground, knew better. I didn't sleep. Couldn't. Just sat there with my phone, staring at that message, watching the sky slowly lighten outside the window. At dawn, I started investigating. Opened Facebook. Went to JM's profile. His privacy settings weren't locked down like Angelica's. Everything was public, every photo visible, and there they were. Photos going back 2 years. JM and Angelica together constantly. Birthday parties, Christmas celebrations, New Year's Eve, beach trips, family gatherings where I recognized her parents, her siblings, all of them smiling with JM like he belonged there. Because he did belong there. I scrolled further. Found photos at the Leyte house. My house. The house I'd paid $5,000 to build. JM standing on the porch, looking very much at home. Sitting at a table I'd never seen. Sleeping in a bed I'd paid for. There was a photo from 3 weeks ago. JM and Angelica at a resort in Bohol. Sunset. Cocktails, his arm around her. Her head on his shoulder. 3 weeks ago. The same weekend, Angelica told me she couldn't video call because of overtime at work. The mathematics were simple, brutal, undeniable. I'd been funding another man's life with my girlfriend. I confronted her via Facebook Messenger, sent screenshots of JM's photos, demanded explanations, asked her to tell me Jessica was lying. The blue check marks appeared immediately. She'd read the messages, seen the screenshots. Then nothing. No reply, no call, nothing. 1 hour passed. Then 2. Then 4. Then 8. I sat in that kitchen all day, drinking tea that went cold, staring at my phone, watching those blue check marks mock me. Finally, at 6:30 in the evening, Irish time past midnight in Cebu, my phone rang. Angelica, I answered, heard crying before she even spoke. But this time the tears sounded different, panicked rather than hurt, desperate rather than wounded. Ciaran, please, let me explain. Jessica is drunk and jealous. She's always been jealous of me. She wanted to go to Cebu too, but her family couldn't afford it, and now she's trying to ruin everything between us. I didn't say anything, just waited. Yes, I know JM. He's a friend. We used to date a long time ago, but it's over now. He sometimes stays at my apartment when he needs a place. But it's not serious, I swear to God, Ciaran, on my mother's life. And the house? My voice sounded strange, hollow. The house is finished, yes. I was going to surprise you. We're renting it out to cover maintenance costs until you move here. The renters pay tax $12,000 a month. It all goes to my father for upkeep. I was going to tell you when you visited. Jessica said there are other foreigners, other men sending you money. That's a lie. A complete lie. Jessica is making things up because she's drunk and angry. There's only you, Ciaran. Only you. I love only you. I wanted desperately to believe her. Wanted to believe that Jessica was lying. That JM was just an old friend who crashed on her couch sometimes, that the house was being rented responsibly, that I was the only man in her life. But the mathematics didn't work. I want to video call with your father, I said, right now. I want him to explain about the house and the renters. He's out fishing. He won't be back until morning. Then I want to see the house via video call. Show me the house, Angelica. The house I paid for. Walk me through it. Show me it's real. The renters are there. It would be disrespectful to disturb them this late at night, and they have a contract until March. Show me proof. JM doesn't live with you. Show me your apartment. Show me you live alone. Ciaran, you're being crazy. You're letting Jessica poison your mind. After everything we've been through, after everything my family has done for you. The guilt again, the weapon she always used. But this time, it didn't work. How much have I sent you? I asked. Total. How much money have I sent to the Philippines? Silence. Angelica. How much? I don't know exactly. You've been so generous, so kind. My family is so grateful. I hung up, opened my banking app, started adding up wire transfers and Remitly transactions and Gcash payments. The number kept growing. Any 250,000 for the house, 40,000 for the tricycle, 70,000 for the boat engine, 70,000 for the dengue hospitalization, 70,000 for engineering software, endless E5,000 and 8,000 and 12,000 and E5,000 payments for groceries and medicine and school fees and birthday parties and emergencies that never ended. The total came to approximately 60,000. 60,000 euro. More than half my retirement savings. Gone. Sent to the Philippines over 11 months. And what did I own? Nothing. Foreigners cannot own land in the Philippines. The house was in her father's name. I had no contract, no receipt with my name on it, no legal claim to anything. The house I'd paid for was being rented out for 12,000 a month, about 2.5 going straight to Angelica's family, while JM lived in her Cebu apartment. The tricycle I'd bought had never made a single repayment. The medical emergencies were real enough when they suited the story, fabricated when they needed extra cash. And I wasn't the only one. Jessica had said there were 2 other foreign boyfriends. 2 other men like me, sending money, believing they were special, thinking they'd found love in the Philippines. I was Tito Moneybags. The retirement plan. The ATM with feelings. I sat in that kitchen, my Red's kitchen, and felt everything collapse. Not just the money, not just the relationship, but the hope, the purpose. The belief that maybe the second half of my life could mean something, that maybe I could fill the hole myriad left behind, that maybe a 61-year-old broken-down coal miner could be loved by someone beautiful and young and kind. It was all a lie. Every video call, every "I love you," every tear, every prayer, every blessing from her mother, every handshake from her father, every welcome from her family. A business transaction I'd mistaken for love. And the worst part, 1/500 seen the signs. I'd felt the pit starting to collapse. But I'd chosen to ignore it, chosen to believe, chosen to keep sending money because admitting the truth meant admitting I was alone again. Grief makes you vulnerable. Desperation makes you blind. And I'd been both. I blocked Angelica on everything the next day. Facebook.Messenger, WhatsApp, email. Couldn't bear to hear more lies. Couldn't stand watching her scramble for new excuses. Jessica messaged me again when she was sober. Apologized for the drunk message, but confirmed everything. Said she felt terrible keeping the secret, but family loyalty is complicated in the Philippines. She told me the whole story. JM and Angelica had been together for 3 years. They lived in a condo in Cebu, a 1-bedroom place near IT Park that another foreign boyfriend was paying for. Richard from Australia. He'd been sending money for 2 years. Thought he was Angelica's exclusive boyfriend, had no idea about me or anyone else. The house in Leyte was indeed finished. Had been for months. They were renting it out for 2,000 a month, about 2,000 and 215 going straight to the family. JM stayed there sometimes on weekends when he wanted to get out of the city. The medical emergencies were sometimes real, sometimes fabricated. The dengue hospitalization happened, but the bill was only 15,000, not the seer 5,000 I'd sent. Her mother did have diabetes, but the medication was covered by PhilHealth, the government healthcare program. The boat engine did break, but her father had already fixed it himself before I sent money. The family knew everything. Her father, her mother, her siblings, all of them. They'd all been in on it from the start. Tito Moneybags was what they called me, the retirement plan. The foreigner with feelings and a pension who made it all possible. I tried to get my money back, spent a week researching, called a solicitor in Dublin, explained the situation. He laughed, not unkindly, just sadly. The laugh of a man who'd heard this story before. Without contracts, without receipts in your name, without property rights, and foreigners cannot own land in the Philippines, you have no legal standing, he said. The house is in her father's name. The money you sent, those were gifts under Philippine law. The loans you made, no documentation, no proof, no contract. It's all gone. What if I fly there, hire a Filipino lawyer? You'll spend thousands more chasing money you'll never see. Even if you had a case, which you don't, Philippine courts are slow. We're talking years. And for what? They're judgment-proof. They have nothing to take, even if you won. The 60,000 was simply gone. My kids found out when Declan visited for a weekend. Noticed I was drinking more than usual. Asked if I was all right. I tried to brush it off, but he's a clever lad. Saw my laptop open to banking statements. The disappointment in his eyes was almost worse than losing my read. Dad. Tell me you didn't. I had to tell him. Had to explain. Had to watch my son, a man who'd looked up to me his whole life, who'd seen me survive 37 years underground, realize his father had been reduced to a cliché. Old fool and young Filipina, he said. Not cruel, not unkind, just stating fact. He wanted to help, offered to contribute some money to help rebuild my savings. I refused. This was my mistake, my education. I'd pay for it myself. Siobhan called from London when Declan told her. She was gentler, but I could hear the worry in her voice. Worry that her father had lost his mind. Worry that I'd end up destitute. Worry that they'd have to support me instead of me helping with the grandkids like I'd planned. My mates at the pub tried to be supportive. Seamus and Padraig sat me down, bought me pints, told me it could have been worse. At least I still had my pension. At least I hadn't sold the house. At least I hadn't married her. That would have been a nightmare to untangle in a country with no divorce. But I heard the whispers, saw the looks. What did he expect at 61? Young Filipina half his age? Of course it was about money. They were right. Of course they were right. That was 6 months ago. I'm 62 now. Still in Nena. Still in the house where my raid died. Still drinking too much, Jameson some nights when the silence gets unbearable. But I've stopped watching YouTube videos about the Philippines. Stopped scrolling Filipino Cupid. Stopped believing that hope and loneliness are good reasons to make terrible decisions. My savings account shows 55,000. About half what I started with. Not destitute, not desperate, but the comfortable retirement I'd planned, the travel, the cushion, the security that's gone. I'm working part-time at the hardware store in town. 20 hours a week. Enough to rebuild the savings a bit. Enough to give me something to do besides sit in that empty house. I'll keep working until I'm 67, maybe 68. Build the account back up to something respectable. The house still feels empty without Myriad. But I've learned to live with that emptiness instead of trying to fill it with someone 33 years younger who called me perfect. Because here's what I learned, and listen close, because I paid P60,000 for this education. Grief makes you vulnerable, and desperation makes you blind. The age gap wasn't the problem. 33 years is just a number. The problem was the power imbalance it created. When a beautiful 28-year-old woman calls a 61-year-old widower perfect, you have to ask yourself, perfect for what? Perfect for loving, or perfect for bleeding dry? I wanted to be needed again. She needed money. We both got what we needed, I suppose, but only one of us knew the real transaction. My Red used to say, if something seems too good to be true, CRN, it's because you're not asking the right questions. She was right about that. She was right about most things. I should have listened to her voice instead of trying to replace it. Ciaran's story isn't unique. We've heard variations of it dozens of times on this channel, but it highlights something crucial that's often missed in these discussions. Not every Filipina who dates a foreigner is a scammer, and not every foreigner who sends money is a victim. Filipino family culture genuinely places enormous importance on supporting extended relatives. It's not always manipulation. It's often genuine cultural expectation that Western men simply don't understand or can't sustain. The pressure on an eldest daughter to support her entire family is real. The poverty is real. The desperation is real. But the question isn't whether an age gap is too old. Consenting adults can make their own choices. The question is whether both people are honest about what the relationship actually is. Ciaran thought he was building a marriage. Angelica knew she was running a business. That's not a cultural difference, that's deception. If you're a Western man considering a relationship in the Philippines, here's the reality check. Can you afford to support an entire extended family indefinitely? Are you prepared for every illness, emergency, tuition payment, and business disaster to become your financial responsibility? Are you willing to build property you can never legally own? If the answer is no, you need to have that conversation early and clearly. And if a woman in her 20s tells you that you in your 60s are her dream man, ask yourself if that dream is about you or about what you can provide. Ciaran is rebuilding. His savings will recover. His dignity is returning. He's learned the hardest lessons about grief, desperation, and the mathematics of age gaps. We hope his story prevents even one person from making the same expensive mistakes. If you've got a story to share or if this hit close to home, leave a comment below. And remember, when someone seems too perfect, it's time to ask the uncomfortable questions. I'm your host, and this has been Inside the Philippines. Stay safe out there.